Welcome, everybody. I've got a special guest in the green room. I'm going to bring them out in a minute, but I want to talk about the markets because it's definitely flashing some pretty serious warning signs. We have made a major break of structure across the board. In my weekend video, I talked about SoFi going lower. I talked about Netflix going lower. Now, I really like both of those companies, but if you look at the chart today, if you had taken puts at the start, you would have made money, even though things had a little bit of a move higher. It was really just to gain some liquidity to push the markets down. What triggered this? Well, we saw gold and silver and the precious metals take a massive hit. Okay, and I think it was kind of pushed over, but it was pushed over on the greedy bulls, and we saw that house of cards ultimately collapse, and that massive risk off move that occurred is something that happened because folks, in many cases, they were over leveraged, and we know how that leverage works. They end up having to get kicked out of their positions, and then they got to go and sell stuff, right, to get back stable, right? And so that's caused that to flow into even assets and companies that people want to own. They're being forced to scramble for cash, right? Because they were caught unprepared and got too greedy. You know the story. Bulls make money, bears make money, hogs get slaughtered. And if you stay a bull or a bear too long, you transform into the hog that gets slaughtered in that story. And so we saw this morning that the markets were leaning towards risk off, and that's exactly what happened. And so what do we have right here? Well, we've got a little bit of a building momentum of bearishness. And today's video is going to be about the overall market, but I'm going to be specifically giving you an update on Bitcoin because I think that I can safely say that the top is clearly behind us. We had an opportunity to go back up and to back test some additional structure. Now, we did back test one structure, and I talked about in recent videos the fact that many years we have back tested two structures, and I'm referring to, depending on whether you're looking at the daily or the weekly chart, I'm referring to the 50 and the 200 or the 20 and the 50. Either way, we have many times back tested both of those structures before heading into the winter. This time we did not. And then you ask, okay, what does that mean? Well, that has happened before on Bitcoin, and it typically means that a much more aggressive sell-off is getting ready to come. And I spent some time looking at the chart. Now that I see the structure that needed to hold got broken, and I've identified something in the RSI on the weekly time frame that I think can somewhat predict, or at least it gives me an educated guess as to where things are going and how bad they're going to get. Welcome to Wall Street. This is the Stocks with Josh show. I appreciate you guys showing up and watching the video. Thank you for taking a minute, dropping a heart in the comments, and feel free to ask a question. I'll do my best to get back to everybody. Today, the profit was made to the downside, specifically in Nvidia. I traded there was a ascending wedge that just got tighter and tighter and tighter as the day went on. And as soon as that wedge broke, man, did that thing flush. And I grabbed some puts, not a huge position initially. I think I picked up 5 and then 10, and it just kept building and building and building. And all the way into the close, really, it fell. And then after the market closed, we're seeing incredible volatility. And so it's going to be an interesting week. We're going to be looking at the jobs report that's coming Friday, is going to be one of the next big catalysts ahead of us. But today I'm going to talk about Bitcoin as a whole, and I'm going to give you some important guidance. Please hit that like and subscribe, and please welcome to the show. You guys think it's Mark from Tribal Trades. It's not. It's Tim Warren. My man is back.
But didn't the last time I was on here, I think I was on with Mark, and you kept calling me Tim from Tribal Trades.
Absolutely.
And you kept saying like, I don't know, you mixed our names up. It was awesome. I loved it. But haven't seen Mark in a while. I need to check back in with him.
Man, you need to be watching him. He's been really focused. Now, he's been a crypto degen for years, but he kind of jumped ship because all the degens in crypto jumped ship and have been over here in the stock market making 2, 3, 4x gains on the AI story. And, I don't know when anybody's going to go back to crypto. I definitely keeping an eye on it. And I'll tell you right off the bat that I've been telling people that as soon as Bitcoin dropped below 100,000, it actually was a little bit lower. I kicked on daily buys. And I had made that decision months and months and months ago. I want to significantly increase my Bitcoin position for the next 5 years. Okay, I believe it's going to be an incredible wealth builder. I don't need to learn my lesson anymore. And when you say, what lesson is that? I don't own enough Bitcoin. I didn't buy enough Bitcoin on red candles.
Yeah.
The move that I've seen over the last two crypto cycles was a significant enough move to be an absolute life changer, wealth builder. We're talking inheritance for your children's children
Yeah.
through Bitcoin, and I just can't ignore it anymore. So I thought
Yeah.
this through. I've been telling people really since the end of 2024 when I called the top of the altcoins. I said, I'm going to clean out everything. I'm going to sell everything. I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin. And I'm going to be thinking and preparing over the next year what is going to be my buy strategy, because I'm not going to do this again. And so today's video, when I talk to you about what I think is happening in the charts and I go into the RSI, it's the RSI, I tell you, that gives, it's quite a powerful tool. When I explain to you what I'm looking for in the RSI, I'm going to show you my plan for ramping up my purchases. I don't believe we've hit bottom. Obviously, I don't think we're anywhere near the bottom just yet. And even fake out moves up could be opportunities to short. But let me just take a minute. Thank you, Tim, for being here today. And before I get into the charts, and this isn't going to be a super long live, I'd love to hear your overall commentary on the market. And then I want you to kind of talk about some of the significant news events which are going to trigger more volatility in crypto and Bitcoin in specific.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a lot of people have left the crypto space. I think there's levels of places to be what I would call defensively optimistic. So what does that mean? Defensive. You're not going crazy in right now, especially in the altcoin space. You're being very defensive. You're looking for what the charts can give you. I mean, like you said, while I still cover crypto probably on a daily basis, every now and then I have a video that goes out that has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. But we've pivoted. We've been focused on gold and silver, a couple of stocks here and there. There's always ways to make money. There's always ways to make money. Even in the world of crypto, people forget it's one of the easiest places to go in and be a bear. When it's time to be a bear, I think the crypto space is the easiest to short right now, especially if you're newer to trading, if you're newer to investing, and you're looking at how do I in a bearish scenario make money going against the grain. Crypto's very good at that, right? So I'm in a place right now where I'm very optimistic. There's a lot of reasons we'll get to in the news that I still think crypto could be big. You know, I told people on my show today, I said there's a tale of two Tims right now, Josh. There's the crypto Tim, right? Crypto Tim is optimistic. Crypto Tim doesn't believe the 4-year cycle is still in effect. I think it's dead. Now, a lot of people are going to claim it's still alive, and there's evidence to say it's claiming alive. I have reasons, thoughts to say I think it's over. But at the end of the day, Crypto Tim is crushed right now, right? Crypto Tim is depressed. Crypto Tim, as much as he stays hopium, the markets just keep getting worse and worse and worse. But this is a tale of two Tims. There's the crypto Tim, and then there's the trader Tim. And the trader Tim doesn't care about Bitcoin. Trader Tim doesn't care about cryptocurrency. Trader Tim just likes charts. He likes to buy when there's big green dots. He likes to sell when there's big red dots. And so, crypto Tim hurting in his portfolio, trader Tim making more money than he's ever made before, because he's just unapologetically saying, I don't care about the bullish or bearish situation. I'm going to trade the charts. I'm going to trade the signals. We've gotten some fantastic bearish signals recently. There are some bullish signals. I think you've even talked about on your channel. There are some lower time frame, shorter time frame bullish signals coming in that does give me a belief that I think it is about time to go back and long on a few of the cryptocurrencies out there. Doesn't mean all the way back to new all-time highs. I think that's a ways off, whether the bottom is in or not, right? That's actually a different question in my opinion. It's just for the short term, I do think there's some bullish moves still ahead of us for crypto. Then as we talk about the headlines, the news, I think the question of is the bottom in or are we about to see a new all-time high really boils down to how you perceive the next couple of months with the headlines coming out, especially in Washington with the Clarity Act.
I completely disagree with you, but continue.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's my take
So
on the
okay,
market now.
let's
Without
let's
going too
let's
far to
hey,
discussing
let's.
news, yeah,
I want you to explore the optimistic bullish view by discussing what you think is going on between the Clarity Act and the banks and the
yeah.
timeline for that ahead.
Yeah, so right now we have pushed the Clarity Act. I mean, there was rumors and rumblings we might have a bill passed back in early 2025. Didn't come. We're coming up on a year since expectations we could get some favorable bills. So that could keep getting kicked down the road. But I think for the first time, there's actually some solid groundwork. You know, the other day, the Agricultural Committee did pass their version. There's part of it. Now it's going to get voted on by the Senate. But I'm going to give a hot take for you, Josh. A lot of people right now are
You better
looking
be
at
hot, brother. It better be hot.
yeah, a lot of people are looking at the Clarity Act and they're saying, "Man, I just don't know if the Democrats will agree to this bill." Right? You got to have bipartisan agreement to get this to go through. I actually don't think that's going to be the dilemma, right? If the Clarity Act doesn't pass, it's going to be because of something that actually has some headlines today, and that is, can the crypto executives and the bank executives agree on what the language should look like? We can say yes at the end of the day, we got to get the politicians in Washington to vote on it and pass it. But at the end of the day, who funds the politicians? Who's the pocketbook for all of them? A lot of them, big banks, big crypto execs, they donate a lot of money to these politicians. And if there's one thing we all know, whether you're a Republican or Democrat or in the middle, we all know people in Washington just do whatever the money tells them to do. All right. So what's happening right now, if you haven't stayed up to date on the drama, is there was a lot of language kind of put forth. You know, a lot of crypto execs came and helped, you know, the Senate and Congress write the bill. And some languages come in that would be not very favorable to like Coinbase for yield farming with stable coins. And so Brian Armstrong pretty much removed his support for the bill. He's come and said, nope, I don't like the bill the way it is. I'm putting a stop to it. And he's not a voter. He's not a politician. Why is it so important? Because he is a donor to these people. So what's happened is now you don't have banks and crypto execs agreeing on what the language should look like. And when they're not going to agree, we're not going to get the Senate to get an official vote on what the bill looks like. As we're talking right now, I think it's wrapping up, but there was the first meeting at the White House today with some lower level executives from both crypto companies and banks to try to find some common ground and discuss what this looks like. The CEOs weren't there, like Jamie Dimon and Brian Armstrong weren't in the room, but their assistants were. And this might be one of many meetings, but if they can come to a conclusion, if banks and crypto can agree, all right, this is what the language is going to look like. In my personal opinion, I actually think that's the hard part. I think after that, you do get both senators from the Democrats and Republicans to agree to pass it. It goes back to the House, which right now is the easier house to get stuff passed in, or the easier part of the branch to get passed in. And then it goes to Trump's desk, and he's already said he's going to sign it the minute it hits his desk. But can we get over this hurdle of the banks and the crypto execs disagreeing? That's going to be the big question.
Well, let me ask you this question, because right now I'm looking at a little bit more of a macro view. Do you think that getting straightened out and providing clarity can offset this wave of liquidation and selling
Yeah.
that began with gold and silver getting absolutely, these were risk on trades. They had become momentum trades, breaking above on all-time highs and just ripping and ripping and ripping. The top was hit.
Mhm.
It's created a wave, and now it's taking a lot of things down with it, including the market today. Do
Yeah.
you believe that clarity that's well overdue? I was looking for that back in 2021. Can
Yeah.
somehow be the wall to stop the sell-off that we're seeing in Bitcoin and the alts?
Well, so let me start off with the gold and silver part of the question. I've been saying now for quite some time, gold and silver, this historic run to the upside, this parabolic move to the upside, which we've seen in sectors like crypto before, they always have to come to an end, right? You can't have ridiculous amounts of gains without some form of healthy correction. I'm going to tell you, I actually, Josh, I don't know where you stand on this because I don't think you and I've talked about this in some of our conversations. I'm not necessarily convinced that gold and silver are done running. When you look at the reasons why they had such big moves and the macro, events that are happening, I think there's arguments to say they both should continue to go up. I will say, to be fair, anyone who's watched my stuff, I by no means get everything correct. I am not an 100% trader. I am not 100% on my calls. I get things wrong, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm like, oh, Tim's always trying to tell us what we got right. What I'll say is anyone who watched my channel for the last couple of weeks knows I told people that gold and silver both needed to correct, and the levels I gave was 20% for gold and 40% for silver. Now, never in my wildest dreams did I think it would happen in 3 trading days. And that's exactly what happened. Gold is now down 21%. Silver is down 41%. And while the daily charts aren't giving me buy signals yet, which again, Trader Tim wants to wait for signals, when you start to look at charts like the 4-hour chart, you are starting to see some possibilities of a bottom. And I don't say that like saying, oh, the 4-hour charts can be the most important chart. It's not. It's a very small time frame. But as you know, whenever you're looking to flip from to get bullish, you always have to have the smaller time frames start, and the smaller time frames buy signals bleed into the larger time frames buy signals. And so, am I buying gold and silver? I DCA'd into them because I said I would at 20 and 40% dips. But once I get that daily buy signal, I'll probably go a little bit heavier back into those. So I wanted to start there. I think gold and silver, while there was a trigger that caused it, did exactly what it really should have done. It had a healthy correction for the first time in months. On the crypto front, and I'm interested to hear your response to this. The reason why if we can get the Clarity Act passed, the reason I'm bullish on it, and the reason I think it brings back liquidity is because right now, the retail investments are gone. You look at almost every on-chain metric, you look at Google Trends, crypto is at an all-time low for interest amongst the population, right? So obviously there's more people watching right now than back in 2011, but when you look at how many people had been involved, it was the biggest dip in crypto interest, right? We had a frustrating bear market in 2022 where there was confusion and fear. Right now we have apathy and just no retail investors care about crypto anymore. They've moved on. So the next big wave of money is not coming from retail, okay? The next wave of money, as I've been saying now for about 2 years, this bull market would be run by institutional adoption. It's going to be the banks. It's going to be the investment firms. It's going to be corporations deciding it's time to go in on crypto. Bitcoin is the future. Gold, altcoins, select altcoins are the future technology for money transactions and how we operate. They're going to look for an apathetic period of time from retail, and they're going to take advantage of that situation to send to the upside. But what can't they do? They can't go with trillions of dollars into it until they have clarity about the rules. They don't want to get in trouble with the SEC and the CFTC. They need to know the rules for their owning it and offering it to their clients before they can go big. Some of them are dabbling. Some of them are getting to test the waters. We already know BlackRock, their number one form of income now is Bitcoin ETFs. But other banks, other large institutions, they're waiting for the green light from Washington, and they can't go in until that happens. Whether we believe this rumor or not, there's a lot of rumors and rumblings that say a lot of banks have said that they are going in on crypto the minute this bill is passed. Is that a lie? Is that the truth? We have to sort that out. But my belief is the next run will happen from institutions, and institutions don't want to move until they have clarity.
Okay. A lot to process there.
Yes.
I didn't forget my original question. I'm going to ask it, and I'm wanting this version to be a yes or no, and then I'm going to respond to your commentary regarding institutions. Do you believe that the Clarity Act can reverse and bring Bitcoin back above 100K?
Yes.
All right. In regards to institutional adoption, I want to, and I'm not even going to, I should show you guys the chart, but I've showed it enough times that when you look at, there's always price, structure, momentum, and volume. Okay. Half of that equation is momentum and volume. Mm-hmm. And people who are not into the charts don't realize that this cycle with the most institutional adoption ever had significantly less volume and momentum. Okay. So even though more people are involved in it, it's become a mature asset and it has lost momentum and it's lost volume over the last couple of years in this current bull cycle, right? And so there's a lot that goes into analyzing charts. Price, structure. We know that $100,000 was a huge psychological accomplishment for Bitcoin. And we know that when we lost that level so decisively, and we're down back here between 80 and 60, right? We know that structure is currently off the table, price is off the table, and truthfully, momentum and volume didn't show up in the way that some people suspect. You know what I'm going to do today, Tim, is I'm going to treat Bitcoin as if it were any other stock and ignore the story entirely and take us into the basics of momentum, because that's where we begin to get the bottoming signals or the reversal signals that eventually show up in price and structure. But in regards to institutional adoption, I just want to make this comment, and I'll pause and let you respond to it. But institutions like Robinhood, Coinbase, BlackRock, these various ETFs, they really, I don't want the retail trader to get the wrong impression, like they're strategic, smart traders. No, they're not. And truth is, people like me and people that in my community, we'll call them the Mikes, the Daniels. We're strategic traders. We're day traders, okay, and investors. But we are strategically learning the charts, taking breakout, taking breakdown. BlackRock's not doing that. They're not even pretending to be that smart. They're making all their money on transactions. They're making all their money on the picks and the shovels, the transactions of whether you want to buy it or whether you want to sell it. Okay. And so the Clarity Act, in my view, is largely going to enable them to introduce more crypto Bitcoin products that whether they go down, they make money, or whether they go up, they make money. So my particular view is that even though I believe it's going to give people more access to crypto, the people that are going to get access, I don't want anyone to get the impression that as soon as that happens, then Larry Fink pulls the buy lever. Buy, and they start just shoveling it into the back of the truck and head over to BlackRock's. It's not the way it works. These guys are only trying to get fees off of the working class investors back, 50 cents, $1 at a time. Those are my thoughts. Before I go into the chart, I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Well, I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think what you're saying, though, is that institutions are only interested in how they make money off of retail. Is that what
I think
you're
they're primarily interested. I think that the only reason why they accumulate positions, and if you recall, BlackRock was allowing Coinbase to be the custodian of their assets, which just shows you they're not even in the game of accumulating it to hold on to it and throw it in the Scrooge McDuck vault in the back. That's not even their game. They're all about the fees, and they don't care. They're happy when you panic sell. They're happy when you panic buy. The Clarity Act will simply give them a longer runway.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let me respond to that, because I disagree with the overall premise, but I want to play devil's advocate and say, let's say you're going in the right direction. You're right about that statement. Why I think there's still some problems with it. Number one, I do think institutions will buy. I don't think they've been buying as much as people think. I think they've been actively talking about it. I think we've even caught JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon manipulating price at certain times, buying strategically and then selling strategically, not for long-term holding, but for price manipulation. What I'm talking about is I think institutions at some point, near future, could take a while, but near future, will actually look for long-term holding positions. But let's pretend that's not the case. Let's pretend we're going to go with what you said, that the only interest, not only, primary interest is to get retail investors to buy and sell their stuff. Here's the problem with that theory is, like I just said, retail is gone. Retail is apathetic. In Q4, BlackRock made the majority of their money from Bitcoin ETFs. Well, what was happening highly in the Q4 of 2025? There was a lot of bullishness, and then there was a lot of chaos, right? So in Q4, you had a big run up to start, and it really started in Q3, but big run up to that new all-time high for Bitcoin. So retail's excited, people are excited, everyone loves assets when they hit new all-time highs. Well, guess what also BlackRock loves? They love the drama. So now all of a sudden, Bitcoin starts coming down in price. Well, retail's still interested, less interested in buying, more interested in selling. Fast forward now, and we're not even in the middle of Q2. Retail interest is apathetic and gone. The biggest price movements recently have actually been liquidating longer term traders with leverage. It really hasn't been a big ETF story. And so BlackRock already starting off Q1 is not making as much money. Why? Because it's apathetic. They
Mm-hmm.
need to get people to buy, but as we know, you and I know, retail investors rarely, if ever, actually buy the bottom. They buy into the FOMO and then they sell into the FUD. There's no FOMO to buy. They don't have an ETF currently to short. Maybe that one would do well. Maybe they build an ETF to short Bitcoin, and that's how they're able to keep things going. But to my knowledge, that hasn't existed yet. I think BlackRock and other banks running ETFs, they actually need to see price increase and not just a little bit. They need to see a sustained bullish movement to regrow retail interest to come buy their products. And then they can keep the manipulation going with this roller coaster of up and downs. Because you're right, at the moment, BlackRock only cares about you buying and you selling. Right now, no one's wanting to buy. And because no one's buying, there's also no one willing to sell. BlackRock's not making money off Bitcoin ETFs right now.
Well, I agree with what you said, and it sounded to me like you were making my point. But I agree with you that right now the entire space is apathetic, and this happens in cycles.
Yes.
When the market, we are sitting at all-time highs, and eventually things are going to cool off. And in 2022, after 2021's peak, a lot of retail walked away. Of course, there's so much money to be made on Wall Street. I don't want to tell anybody what to do with their lives, but I personally would think it would be the biggest mistake of my life to ever turn and walk away. Every time I've pushed in deeper to Wall Street, any mistake I've ever made in the rearview mirror, I've been able to overcome by like 10x. And it's been stunning. Now, that doesn't happen without putting an enormous amount of effort. And sometimes there's a lot of pain and tears and sweat. But I tell you, that's been my experience. And as I love to say, Wall Street is the hardest way to make easy money. But every day there's easy money opportunities. Let me take a minute and talk to you guys about what I'm watching and what I believe it means. And I want to be very clear. After I go into the charts here in a minute, I want to be very clear that if tomorrow we get a great news story and a ripping green candle, I promise you it won't change anything I'm saying today. Nothing. Okay. So this is what I'm going to be watching for. And if you pay really, really close attention to this explanation of the RSI, you won't even need me a week down the road. If we get a bunch of green candles, you'll understand what it means. Okay. So I'm going to be teaching you how to fish, not giving you the fish today. Let's swing over to the charts. Happened to have the PayPal chart up, and I noticed that somebody was asking me to talk about it. And I just want to highlight that yes, we've got earnings here tomorrow, Tuesday in the morning. And, I could care less if it reversed on some positive earnings. It's pulled down in such a way that the most obvious target that you got to be keeping your eye out for, the best case scenario is that we would see some volatility, that it would tap this bottom, make a double bottom, get a mammoth green node showing institutional interest. And someone would say, well, how do we know if there's institutional interest? Every single time I do a video, I talk about unusual options activity. When I give you guys my PSMV, I also give you unusual options activity. And so it's not too hard. You can look into the options and determine whether or not after earnings, retail in very or institutional money in very high volume puts on millions of calls far dated out with a really really high strike price, then the market shifted bullish and you can ride that for a long time. If I were to just look at it right now, obviously I would assume that we're going to make that the soonest that this could possibly bounce would be a double bottom here. I would see no reason to get in tonight. Doesn't matter whether they do great tomorrow. If they do great on high volume with bullish options activity pointing out in the scenarios I did, then I'll give it a shot. I'll keep an eye on it for you guys. All right, let's get into Bitcoin. All right, it's the RSI story that I think matters the most right now. And I just want you to look with me. We've got weekly candles up on a weekly time frame. It means that every single one of these candles represents 1 week of price action. And if you come down to the RSI, you can see that from the standpoint, all the bullish move occurs in the top half of the RSI. So when We were running up back here in 2017 and then fell in 2018. All of that, the RSI lived in the top half. Okay, well, eventually this thing began to break down, and right here it lost the top, it lost the up move, and we began to break through the bottom half. Now, this is where it becomes very important. Let's watch how this behaves, and this formed the bottom. Okay, so after it broke into the bottom half of the RSI and price fell off this ledge, eventually it had to run down quite a bit before a bottom was formed and it bounced. Well, let's go down and figure out how that happened. Okay, so largely it stayed on the bottom half of the yellow moving average line. Okay, and if you zoom in very close, eventually it had a pretty ugly fall. And then it had a little minor recovery attempt and went even further, okay? But that wasn't the moment to buy. It came back up, it acted as if it was going to cross the yellow line, and it continued down even lower. Now, right when it crossed that yellow line, after that prolonged period, after it had lost the 50% mark, and it came down and lost the 30% mark, and then it recovered the yellow moving average line, that was the time to buy. Okay. So now there's something else, and there's another reason why I'm drawing your attention to 2018. Because in previous years, I talked about the death cross and how it would always back test the 50 and the 200 before going south. Okay. The only other time that it didn't do that was right here in this cycle. And the truth is, this RSI resembles price action the most to 2018. Let's zoom into the future, okay? Right here, it made an effort and gave us a little tip cross of the moving average RSI. It came down. It did the exact same thing that it did last time at the exact same level. It gave us a little turn up. But this is where I believe that at this level, we are just dangerously close to a flush move that should occur in the next 2 to 3 weeks, giving us even a lower price on Bitcoin. And so this is where I believe that we're in danger, okay? And I would say I'm going to keep this really simple, and this is not, it's a little bit meant to predict with the understanding of when to know if the prediction is wrong, okay? Previously, when we were somewhat guessing whether or not we would come up and back test the 200 like we did in 2021, we said, you got to put a stop loss in at, for me, it was 89 at one point and then 88 to 200. But the minute that level was lost, well, then the move back up to test the 200 was off the table. Okay. And we got into that much bigger capitulation moment that I'm kind of describing that we are potentially in now. Okay. So we had a much more shallow back test, not the one that we've had in the past. We have a little green candle going here, but obviously you see that I've drawn on my chart a descending support line, which would bring the price down if we were to have a huge leg down and ultimately get down into the RSI, which on the weekly time frame often means that we're pretty darn close to our low. We would come down into this range right around 61K, okay? And I'm not predicting that 61K is the low. I'm just telling you that if it lines up with this support level and it hits this level for the third time, this is the moment in which I'm going to significantly increase my buys. Now, you guys have heard me talk about the fact that I've been buying daily, and about 2 or 3 days ago, when we made this drop down, I added $100 a day to it. Now, that's not a significant add for me. I just felt, you know what? We're a little bit lower. It's time to bump up my daily buys. Now, if we get beneath 75K, I intend to double my daily buys. And at 70K, I'm going to double them again. And then at 65, that's when I'm going to really go all in. I'm not saying we can't have any green days. I'm just saying that if you go back into that history and you just go by the RSI alone, I've got 3 windows pulled up, and let's look at them more carefully, okay? By the time we got to this level here, which is the same level that we got there, which is the same level we're sitting at today, we had a pretty bad run getting ready to have getting ready to come to pass ahead of us. Okay, both of them right here near the end, there was a little bit of a trip mechanism that occurred that brought us down to being oversold. Okay, and became a much lower low. A good 10. So we went from back here, we went from 6,000 down to 3,000. We lost almost 50%. And back here we went from 26,000 down to 15. We lost what would that percentage be? 26 to 15, 12, 12 would be, or 13,000 would be half. We got pretty close to another 50% loss. And right now we're sitting at 78, and we haven't turned it down. And so a little bit less than half of 78, you're looking at 80, 40, 36. So could we, let me do the math on this. I'm going to clean up my chart. Got too many lines on it. Going right now from around 78 down to around 60 would be a relatively conservative drop compared to the past. And I don't really mean in this video to make predictions like 50% or give specific dollar amounts. I think that what really matters to me is that we're far enough down on that weekly RSI and we have rejected against it consistently that to me now, that 30% level on that RSI, that extreme oversold condition on the weekly time frame, it's like a magnet. It's calling the price of Bitcoin. And when you consider what we saw with gold and silver and risk on assets that have been up at their highs, truth is even Bitcoin is up near its highs, because just a handful of years ago this was 15,000. So yes, at 80K, it's still up at its highs. And so if you're interested in Bitcoin, it's not the time, as Tim said so correctly, that there's complete apathy in crypto. Everybody's turned their back and walked away. This is where fortunes are made. If you take a step back and consider that Bitcoin went from 15,500 to 130,000, right? I mean, obviously, if you put serious money, even 100K into Bitcoin, and I know everybody's got different money. Someone might say, I've got $100. If you put money into Bitcoin in the last cycle when everybody else had become scared and apathetic, right, you would have outperformed everybody. Well, guess what my plan is? I'm planning to outperform everybody. Tim, what are your thoughts?
No, just, I came on here and, I'm the Bitcoin guy. I'm the crypto guy. I think the TA you just did is phenomenal. And the reality is, if nothing changes in the news, I'm in the same boat. Right now, while we hit my $76,000 beginning level that I started with the dump, on your chart, I think you had it drawn out beautifully as well. Bitcoin just played out of a rising channel. When we lost around $90,000, I told my community it's time to short. We're going down to 76K. Ended up being a pretty good spot. Now, again, there are certain daily signals that are saying there's a chance that we're bullish. I see someone in data in the chat, talking about the ISM data that just came out. Historically, when the ISM PMI gets back above 50, Bitcoin starts to run as well. But it's too soon to make that call. If we lose 75,000, I already have it in my portfolio to trade and short 75,000 down to 65,000. I think the level there, you said something about 60,000. That's a level a lot of people are throwing out there. I think that's the 200-week moving average.
Yeah, and it just coincides. And again, structure is not a standalone item for any of us to invest in, but it does line up with some previous historic structure.
Yeah.
And I've always done well paying attention to structure. So I think that if it were to stop falling anywhere, it probably would be where there's some structure.
Yeah, and so what I would say is, remember I told you there's a tale of two Tims. There's the crypto Tim, there's the trader Tim. Trader Tim is watching the charts. Trader Tim is going to take them as they go. There is no long-term weekly buy signal right now for me to want to go all in. So when you say, hey guys, this is not the time to go in on Bitcoin, I'm in 100% agreement with you. And I think there's a chance, according to what I'm seeing on the daily chart, what we might actually see is a run back up towards $86,000. I don't know if we get quite to it or a little bit below it. I think there's a decent chance we make a move back up. We get rejected there, start to drop lower. What I'm aware of though, and this is where Crypto Tim comes in, I'm also aware of the chaos that can happen. I'm aware of manipulation that happens, of traps that happen as well. This is one thing for certain in the world of crypto. The minute you think you really know what's going on, a curveball gets thrown at you by the manipulator. So that's where I told people, again, I think I said it earlier in the video, defensively optimistic. I think I'm more optimistic than you are. I think there's a chance that the bottom's closer than the 4-year cycle says, which would suggest October of 25 is the right time to go in. And that's where my deal with the Clarity Act comes in. Until that happens, though, right now we don't have a Clarity Act. Right now we don't have weekly buy signals. Right now there is still so many reasons to be defensive and bearish on Bitcoin. I completely agree with your analysis. It's actually the first time I looked at the RSI the way you just did it. So I think that was fantastic analysis. We're close to that 30, but we're not there yet. So if nothing changes with the Clarity Act, if nothing changes our current wave of momentum, I think you're 100% right. We got to go sub 30 on the RSI and more than likely into the 60s at 200 SMA. I think, 200 weekly SMA. I think it's at 58 right now. So that's an interesting zone, 58 to 65. If we take that next leg down, is my next spot to watch for.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. And I agree with you. If you are shorting Bitcoin right now, the risk is for a back test to that 86,000. And what I do expect, if you go back, and as I mentioned, I've compared that weekly RSI to the previous two tops. However, if you go back to the 2017, 2018, that was the year that we had just absolute insane volatility and the price behaved the most irregular. And at the moment, we're resembling that year, okay, which means that in that year, we had this massive move down. The RSI went down sub 30. It reversed. It had a unprecedented move back up when it should have been hibernating into the winter. And after everybody got confident and thought that Bitcoin was doing something new, then 2020 hit and it got smacked all the way back down, and made essentially a significant double bottom before heading into the rally of the following cycle. And at the moment, Bitcoin's performing similar to me. I've got, as I examine all the different cycles, it seems to be a little bit more aligning with that cycle, which tells me that we could have some real significant financial events ahead of us in 2026. Let's briefly touch while I've got this video going. I know people are going to be interested in Nvidia. Nvidia stock dropped today. I'll throw this news story up and we can chat about it, why its $100 billion OpenAI investment is in question. This is huge news. And of course, I think that you can see price-wise, this thing was falling off a cliff going into close. I actually was taking puts right here. And again, you know why I took puts there? I'll show you. It wasn't, it wasn't anything fancy. It's basic structure again. We had a pretty nice ascending wedge and they're bearish, okay? So we had an ascending wedge right there that I had been tracking throughout the day, kind of going between it. We ultimately got a gravestone doji. We went sideways. We built afternoon structure. We broke afternoon structure, and that was the moment to go short. And if you guys like that and you want to try to make some money alongside me and my Crown Traders, you can come join the Stocks with Josh Discord pro trading community, and you can find it by going to the website, which is the same name as the show, Stocks with Josh. You just search www.stockswithjosh. I've been promising some changes over there, and we have some price increases coming. And right now, it's sort of I would say it's the honeymoon phase of the Discord, because we're grandfathering everybody that's in now. We're grandfathering them into our current pricing, which is going to change. And what I love about this Discord is that we have, besides the teaching opportunities, as I taught in today's video, I also teach there. I try to do a weekly class. But there's, in addition to just learning, there are 10 live trading plus. There's more than 10, actually. We have got about 13. But there's every afternoon and morning is covered. And I got to shout out my man, Money Mike. In my opinion, he's one of the kings of the SWJ Discord. And look at him throwing this money around, offering steak dinners. He must have had a good day. He gave a $50 super chat and he said, "Steak on me, brother." Thanks, Money Mike. We appreciate you. Now, Money Mike's name, of course, is Mike. And right now it's Money Mike, but I am quite sure that he's on his way to becoming Millionaire Mike. And I'm going to tell you that that's going to be a fun day. And he said, "Smash that like, y'all." Wednesday morning, Mike and I are going to be live trading, and you'll be doing some power hour trades with me and Daniel in the afternoons. That's pretty much the end of my show. This before we leave, the bottom line with this Nvidia OpenAI story is I personally don't like or trust Sam Altman. I guess as a person that could be a public figure, I should be careful about saying stuff like that. But he has been untouchable. It seems as if every company, every corporation, and every nation has come to bow the knee at OpenAI's feet. And Sam's been at the center of the deals in Washington and globally. And, I don't know if this is a step back or the first crack we see. I have predicted that the AI rally is not over and that the AI rally only ends when OpenAI goes public, which some people have projected would be in 2027. They've given it a $1 trillion valuation, and it would be one of the biggest deals Wall Street has ever seen. And I'm more of a technical trader than a fundamental trader, but I've done this long enough to know that when something like that is ahead and the market hypes and hypes and hypes, and they finally see it come to fruition, and OpenAI is going to rule the world with their data centers and their algorithms, it's around that time that folks start to sell into strength. And so I think that we still have a lot of runway. Someone asked me earlier if we were going to try to ride Microsoft up. I think that I'm more interested, believe it or not, in riding Nvidia up than Microsoft right now. Microsoft has been really weak, and there's a gap down below that it's got to fill. And I think it could lose more. But right now I'm less focused on Microsoft and more focused on Nvidia. And so this news event is going to create some profit volatility for me tomorrow. Before we head out and end this show, Tim, I'm curious your thoughts on Nvidia, the AI story, and OpenAI.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not convinced necessarily AI is in a full-blown bubble. I do know that everything that goes up really explosively has to have some pullbacks. Like you just said, when I look at the technicals on this, I see the beginnings of some issues on longer time frames, but not screaming at me, it's time to go short. I'm going to wait for confirmation on NVIDIA before I were to do anything long-term short, but I also am kind of hesitant right now to go long. So to me, that's not really it's not a stock that I'm watching right now and saying, let me get really hefty with trading it, or let me get hefty with buying it or positioning myself for a long-term short. I'm not really betting against AI, but I'm also kind of saying this is a really overbought stock at the moment. There's a lot more things out there right now with volatility. I think gold and silver right now, some people are scared of it. I embrace it. I love that volatility I'm seeing happen as a trader. That's a beautiful thing. I think even though there's long time before we're going to feel good about going long-term long on Bitcoin and crypto, the volatility makes it very attractive for a day trader like me to stay around and make cash both to the upside and the downside. In the stock world, I'll say one thing I really did the other day. I liked Apple's pick. I bought some Apple the other day. Very glad with that pick on Thursday. And right now that's still looking good for me.
I kind of like Apple too. Let me give you guys my exact thoughts on NVIDIA. Here at the end, let me just show you the chart, and I'm going to keep it simple. It's always a learning opportunity. So obviously, we came up against some historic resistance right here. This range that we came into is historic resistance. Now, I don't expect this, and it's not quite a double top, but many could view it as a double top. If we did end up closing beneath the valley low of those two tops, it would signal a lower low than we had gotten back here in December. Okay. Now I'm not predicting that. Actually, I'll tell you the exact moment I'm looking to buy. I want to talk a little bit about volume. This is something I've been teaching lately. It's called E plus E equals D. E plus E equals D. And this is a simple explanation of volume. So right here, we had a break of this moving average. We got an expansion candle, price expansion candle, and we got down here a volume expansion candle. Expansion plus expansion equals direction. Okay. Then we got this little bitty green candle. Okay. And that's where people who were getting in too early got in. Okay. And it wasn't a good reversal signal and ended up going lower. Okay. But over here, we actually had a capitulation moment, and we end up having a expansion green candle, expansion green there, and that kind of signaled the bottom. So right now, I don't know exactly where the reversal moment is. I just know what I'm looking for, and that's going to be this scenario. I want expansion of price in reversal. I want expansion of volume interest, and I believe that could mark a reversal to take into earnings. Now, this is my version of an earnings play. Some people like to load up on 10, 20 call put options the night before earnings. That is not my version. That's called a lotto trade. My version of earnings is to realize that earnings is ahead of us. For Nvidia, it's Wednesday, February 25th. Okay. So we've got a little bit of time. We've got 3 weeks or so, about 3 weeks. And in that time frame, we're going to get probably some additional down pressure, right? I doubt we're popping tomorrow. I think we've got some downward pressure to go. And I'm going to be looking for, really, even if you took this candle here, that's the green one, it wasn't the bottom, okay? But look at what a big volume note it gave. That's a huge E with a huge E, gave us a beautiful move up, okay? So somewhere in this range, I'm going to be looking for E plus E equals direction. So we don't have it. I'm be watching mindful trades to the downside on Nvidia going into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Moves that would look like price coming back up to the 200 EMA and then getting rejected on the hourly time frame. I'm be looking for puts to the downside until we get that reversal move. And then I'm going to go long into earnings. And if you follow me, I'll do my best to let you know when it's time and that Nvidia looks impressive to go long into earnings. But truth be told, if we were to even enter now, I have the view that Nvidia is not going to fall off the cliff and just descend into oblivion right now. Even if we were to enter on a bad trade tomorrow, it wouldn't shock me if by earnings that was still a profitable trade. It's just that you would be probably riding price down for another 2 weeks before hitting the bottom. Just a couple thoughts for you. Thank you, Tim, for being an honored guest. Tim has his own YouTube page and his own community called Tim Warren. And real quick, shout anything out, Tim, that you'd like to share with the folks?
Yeah, no, come check me out on YouTube. You can do a whole lot of more day trading content. I've done a lot of macro stuff in the past, and we're still going to dabble with that, but a lot more day trading stuff to go on. So content coming out every single day on that. So come check me out. Come give me a follow, a subscribe, and shout out to the whole Stocks with Josh community. You guys are the best. Love you guys, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Tim. I really appreciated your analysis. And, I've been told by a lot of people that they like it more when we disagree. And
it makes good TV. Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. Peace and blessings. Talk to you later.